that precisely because it's not legally admissible.
It means nothing, which is why that's why when Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton are emailing each other about spending $65,000 on hot dogs, the reason they say hot dogs is because who could object to that, right?
Because Chicago hot dogs are just that good, even though Hillary Clinton apparently likes them without a bun and with peanut sauce or something like that.
Oh, by the way, I was recently in Chicago. I never left the airport, but I was there for like 12 hours. Chicago hot dogs are not good. They're terrible. They have there's like these ants or whatever all over the bun, some sort of black dots. They put all kinds of shit on them. They're just terrible. Granted, it was an airport hot dog, but also I was at the Cubs, Cubs sports bar in the Chicago airport. Treated horribly, very unfairly. My flight was also delayed several times. So that's all I gotta say about Obama and Chicago. Bad city, bad people there. They deserve the crime rate that they have. I'm not surprised about the whole Jussie Smollett thing. Jussie Smollett, by the way, is suing the city of Chicago. And it's like a Hitler versus Stalin situation. Like, I just hope they kill each other.
He's suing the city?
Countersuing.
For what?
Because they're racist or something.
Because they're yeah.
I don't actually know why he's suing them. It's the classic countersuit. They're suing him for they want him to pay for all the resources he wasted.
You sue me, I sue you.
Yeah, that's the way suing works. Is you countersue just to try to cut the damage, I guess.
Okay, let's think. Was
you've heard of him, right? He's a famous actor from France.
Yes. Yeah.
By the way, that's the funniest thing because I saw every article I would see about Jussie Smollett. There would be like the top comment would be someone like just saying, "Oh, this guy from France doesn't know anything about America or whatever." Someone would be like, "Oh, I'm just calling him the actor from France."
The actor from France. Okay. Is there anything else on the investigation that needs to be brought up? Oh, Michael Cohen had the same thing, by the way. He was also saying that Donald Trump said this, but he was openly speculating that when Donald Trump says this, he has a way of making you do illegal things without telling you to do illegal things. Like he has a mind control ability.
Yeah, it's all ridiculous. It's all mind control and mind reading. I will say this though. If history has taught us anything about Donald Trump, it's that we can be 100% certain at this time he's finished.
So the walls are closing in.
The walls are closing in.
Now, you're going to want to be careful using your echo effect from now on.
Why?
Well, I can't tell you why.
Explain to me why. Explain why. I don't get it.
I won't explain why. All I can tell you is just for completely separate reasons. Our next topic is actually we're going to be talking about Israel. So, Donald Trump has effectively come out in favor. No, can't say it like that. Donald Trump and Mike Pompeo have come out in favor of a position that weakens one Palestinian political party and rhetorically empowers another Palestinian political party. One might say that Mike Pompeo has effectively endorsed the platform of Hamas. So what happens is the U.S. has said that Israeli settlements are no longer considered illegal in the West Bank. Many people in our audience, I'm sure, find my concern for this issue to be very strange, right? I mean, the context required to explain it. For a variety of reasons, the state of Israel exercises control over a territory in its eastern region, or to its east, however you want to phrase that, which is called the West Bank because it is on the west bank of the Jordan River. It used to be under the control of Jordan. Now it is under the control of the state of Israel and also a non-sovereign self-governing authority called the Palestinian Authority. And in theory, this occupation, or internationally it's called an occupation, is, as the Trade Federation would say, perfectly legal. But it is a violation, again in theory, of the Fourth Geneva Conventions to transfer civilian populations into occupied territory or out of it. So, for example, now of course Israel is nothing like this other country because they did the exact opposite thing. Actually, well, when Nazi Germany invaded Poland, there was a mass expulsion of Poles into wherever, and the movement of German civilians into Polish homes. These were population transfers, and these were war crimes, right?
Sure.
So Joseph Stalin, when he took control of Europe over up to the Oder-Neisse line, was transferring Germans and Poles around. This too was a population transfer. Somehow not a war crime because Joseph Stalin won World War II. So the construction of Israeli settlements, according to a few weirdos in the ICC, constitutes a population transfer because, well, there are Israeli civilians who live in what some people call Israel proper, who are encouraged to move and build houses in this allegedly militarily occupied territory called the West Bank, right? And so these settlements, as the theory goes, are a violation of international law. This was, at the very least, even Israel's most ardent proxies were taking the position that they were at least something up for discussion. They were something, at least an obstacle to be addressed in the negotiation. And Mike Pompeo has said, actually, these are no longer illegal. And this was Mike Pompeo's exact phrase. Calling the establishment of civilian settlements inconsistent with international law has not advanced the cause of peace. The hard truth is that there will never be a judicial resolution to the conflict, and arguments about who is right and who is wrong as a matter of law will not bring peace. He said the legality of settlements should be decided by Israeli courts and claimed that the U.S. declaration would not prejudice an ultimate settlement between Israelis and Palestinians. Now, we can examine this a variety of ways. I just want to point out that the statement arguing about who's right and who's wrong will not bring, there will not be a judicial resolution to the conflict. Well, I have some news for Mike Pompeo, which is very simply, there was a movement among Palestinians before they committed, or at least claimed to have committed, to a judicial resolution that involved stabbings, bombings, rockets, right? The occasional military incursion by Syria and Egypt and Iraq, right? Mm-hmm. That was the sort of the original logic, was the use of force. And then at some point in the 80s, the Palestinians realized actually, the law in its own way is a form of force. And so they prosecuted an international legal strategy. But if Mike Pompeo is saying actually arguments about who's right and who's wrong don't matter, well, there was one Palestinian group, well, there's many Palestinian groups, but one very big Palestinian group that you might have heard of called Hamas, which has always taken the position that entering into a protracted legal battle with a literal Jewish state was kind of a dumb idea from the beginning. And Mike Pompeo's position could be seen as empowering Hamas. Some might say that what Mike Pompeo is saying proves that Hamas was effectively right all along. I'm not saying that, but some people might say that, right? Some might say that what Mike Pompeo is saying is that the PLO completely wasted its time, sold out the Palestinian cause in its entirety, and now they're reaping the whirlwind. At least Hamas might say that. I'm not saying that.
One might say, this person might say, well, everybody's saying everything except you.
Yes, I don't believe anything. I'm like
Kamala
Harris. I just say whatever my handler.
You're like some CNN network smoothie. People have said that
exactly
you're in the Ku Klux Klan. I don't say it, but people say it.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Or like Donald Trump. Everybody says that this, but I'm not going to bring that up.
Right. Some might say that this is great. Some might say the two-state solution was a complete farce from the beginning and was never going to happen, and was in fact more of an absurd pipe dream than a one-state solution, despite what the proponents said that a one-state solution was dreaming. Regardless, Donald Trump, in many ways, makes dreams into realities. So, here we are, with the United States effectively endorsing a one-state solution, saying there's only one organization, only one monopoly of force between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea.
Well, as an anarchist, isn't a one-state solution better than a two-state solution, right? After all, it's one less state.
Oh, of course. One is less than two. So eventually, if we just all get united under a single government, then we can all just look at it and to collectively say no, and then we'll have entered into an ANCAP society. Yes, I
Well,
ripped
no,
off that
it's
joke
not
from
that
you.
easy. You're straw manning. So right now we have 200 governments. If we had one, that's 199 down, one to go.
Mm-hmm.
The momentum will be on our side.
Anarchists for imperialism. All right. And so that's all I have to say about that. That is to say nothing. I'm just saying what other people might say.
Yeah.
Now, let's go back to other Trump news, or really let's talk about Roger Stone. And I'm really upset because this was part of a pattern, because there have actually been 2 or 3 people that, Julian Assange, we got to talk about him a little bit, and Edward Snowden and stuff. It's startling how easy it is to forget about Julian Assange.
Yeah.
But
that's
anyway,
what they're hoping on, I guess.
Yeah, so Roger Stone has been convicted. He's sentenced to 30 years in prison for, I don't know, being Roger Stone. Some people listening to our show...
For lying to Congress. As Tucker Carlson pointed out, which is pretty funny since Congress cannot get in trouble for lying to you. For lying to Congress about about minor details in an investigation that they've now concluded as based on nothing. Now, the official story of the Russia Gate situation is that this whole thing turned out to be nothing. There was no collusion of any kind. And yet Roger Stone's going to prison for lying or misremembering, however you want to call it, giving false statements. Lying is not actually what you get persecuted for. It's giving false statements, which could mean he just said, oh, yeah, I didn't talk to WikiLeaks on this day. And then they go, actually, we saw that you DM'd Assange and said, fuck the deep state. And he goes, oh, shit. Yeah, you're right.
Asking Edward Snowden for news.
He might die in prison. I forget what his
Roger Stone has been referred to as a bodybuilding dandy. He will not last in prison.
That's true. And so he is facing up to 20 years in prison.
Donald Trump is
keeping an eye on it. Right after the verdict. So now they convict Roger Stone of lying and want to jail him for many years to come. Well, what about Crooked Hillary, Comey, Strzok, Page, McCabe, Brennan, Clapper, Schiff, and Nelly, Steele, and all of the others, including even Mueller himself? Didn't they lie? Question mark.
Did he say
ellipses?
McCain? What? Did he say McCain?
McCabe. Andrew McCabe.
Oh, McCabe. I thought he's still dragging John McCain from beyond the grave. Just one more pot shot at John McCain. Wouldn't that be just something?
My understanding of this from a Tucker report was that he basically got railroaded by this judge who's an Obama appointee, as is seemingly every judge in the United States somehow. And hopefully Donald Trump pardons him.
Donald Trump does not actually. Donald Trump is the worst fascist ever.
Yeah. Right?
I cannot emphasize this enough. He is the worst fascist ever. How can you be a fascist in power and somehow all of your political allies are getting put through show trials and not one of your political enemies?
Right?
How can you? What's going on here? I was promised kangaroo courts. I wanted to see Hillary Clinton, confessing to the Kennedy assassination.
Oh, yeah.
I was promised.
That's what we were promised, was that she would be marched in front of frog marched in front of some show trial jury, and she's just reading a prepared statement.
Yes, exactly. Pre-written confession, right? She's shaking a little bit, like she can barely hold the confession.
And we're all outside with pitchforks, just hooting and hollering, like.
Her own defense attorney. It's like the Kuchescu trial where her own defense attorney switches sides and starts announcing her during her own testimony.
Yep.
By the way, this really happened.
Yeah. Where are the show trials when you need them?
Yeah. Oh, we forgot something very important about the impeachment thing, which was the only reason Donald Trump was even accused of this quid pro quo Donald Trump was accused of making a deal. The media tried for a very long time to conceal the name of the whistleblower. Like, we don't have confidentiality. He has rights. It's very strange. Again, I say the word strange, but I realize this is my own podcast. I don't need to be facetious here. It's absolutely asinine and indicative of a profound sickness that we hear so much about how Edward Snowden and Assange are not real whistleblowers because they didn't stick around to get dumped in a hole, right? And stand before the American public. But the media was the whistleblower, the real whistleblower who exposed that Donald Trump makes deals with foreign countries.
Who exposed his secondhand opinion about someone else's opinion about what Donald Trump said on a phone call.
Right.
When we have the
whistleblower's
transcript of the
identity-
phone call and the testimony of Donald Trump and the other person on the phone call and everyone who was actually listening in on the phone